Hi, my name is Justin Chen, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about trade schools. So if you guys don't know what a trade school is, it's known as a technical school or vocational school, and it's basically an educational institution that focuses specifically on a certain job. So not like college where you take it for like liberal arts or math or something like that. It's more focused on the exact job. And my main claim is that going to a trade school is still a good choice and is still a valuable choice against going to college. One of my secondary claims is that a person can make about the same amount or more money going to a trade school and getting a job right after the 2 years of going to the trade school than someone who took a 4-year degree and then is going into the workforce. So a report by US News states that a plumber's median income is about $50K, and the average, like for anyone coming right out of college, their average annual income is about $50K also. Even though it's not that big of a difference, there's certain jobs like being an electrical pole worker that you can get paid up to $300K annually, like starting, which is pretty crazy. Another secondary claim is going to trade schools instead of attending a 4-year college can open up more job opportunities. In like today's as we progress through technology, we need someone to upkeep and maintain all of the technology and all the maintenance that needs to be done. And it's like the hard handwork that people don't want to do, so that's why there's so many openings. Between 2010 and 2020, 2 million of the suspected 20 million job openings were going to be in blue-collar work, which is where trade schools come in handy. A personal experience of mine is there was a train station right next to my friend's home, and we tried to apply there, and the starting pay there was $80K annually, and that's already above what you can get after a 4-year degree. And on top of that, for going to a trade school, it costs, like, after all your student loans and everything, it's around $10K, like your student loans in all. While if you go to a 4-year, generally students average around $30K per borrower. So that's like per person that you borrow from. So $30K would just be from your financial aid, and then from any other loan that you can get it from. A recent survey done by grad staff, it was done with 503 entry-level job seekers, so like just people that came right out of college and that are looking for jobs. Nearly 70% of the respondents were either unemployed or working in a full-time non-professional job, so like a job at McDonald's or something like that, that's not paying, that they're barely making ends meet to pay rent or get food and stuff like that. Another thing is, oh sorry, I already said that. The cost of, my third point is the cost of college and loans. A report done by the Complete College of America showed that roughly 19% of students could graduate with a bachelor's degree in 4 years. Only 19% of us are basically going to graduate within 4 years. A lot of us are going to have to go into 6 years. At about 6 years, it raises up to about 50% of us will be able to graduate. And then after that, it just keeps climbing, or we end up dropping out. And then we just have giant student loans. Really sucks to hear that, but it's really true. Like, it's really hard to graduate from a 4-year college. And with the trade school, it's generally around 2 years that you go to the trade school, and then after that, you get your, I think it's an AA degree, and then you're able to take classes, like, the quickest I think is 6 months. You take 6 months of classes for that specific job, and then you can immediately start working and getting paid as a full-time. Although like this isn't a significant difference between the pay between one versus the other, after a while of building up those student loans, they're going to catch up to you, and then you're going to have to end up paying off some of your student loans for like the rest of your lives. Like, I know one of my family members is still paying off his student loans, and I think he's 42, and he went to George Washington University, and he works 2 full-time jobs now, which is insane. That's all he does. And then also, so there's a statistics by the Department of Labor which projected the growth of blue-collar work And approximately until 2020, blue-collar jobs are supposed to be growing about 24%. So more and more blue-collar jobs are like opening up. And your job security in those jobs is fairly high because not many people want to do it, and you're constantly in need of people to do these jobs. So in conclusion, college isn't for everyone, so don't force your way through it. If you're not like up to it, or like you're going for the reason that like you don't actually want to learn about college or learn about the subject that you're majoring in, then it might be easier just to go into basically a trade school, because you get those extra 2 years of your life back kind of, and you don't have to be paying off loans or student loans, going to classes, and you can already start working. And there's a quote that I really liked. It's in the US News Today. It said, "Newsflash, college isn't for everyone. Your level of intelligence doesn't necessarily equate to whether you got a bachelor's degree." Thank you.
Well, the topic is clear. The phrasing of the proposition's a little bit awkward. It almost sounds like it's a policy claim, but it's really a value claim when you say it's a good choice. I do think you could argue, for example, that it is a effective career option, that it will produce a desirable outcome. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you could phrase it that would clean it up a little bit. There's no preview of what the supporting structure is going to be. In the body of the speech, I heard signposts on a couple of points, the first and the third point. I'm not exactly sure what the second point was. So I think that's one of the reasons, another one of the reasons why you want to have a preview at the beginning of the speech, so that if there's a transition problem or you don't have a clear label in the middle, at least people will know where you are at any given point. You have a tendency to kind of present evidence and then make the claims from it instead of making the claim first and then using the evidence to support it. You've got examples that you give us on salaries, for instance, and wages. You're not consistent about giving us sources on a lot of things. The personal example that you had about applying at a train station, I don't know what the job was, what kind of train we're talking about, whether it's a subway, whether we're talking about Amtrak, and what, like you said, what kind of job it was. And if it was such a great deal, it seems a little strange that you're here instead of working on the railroad. I'm not exactly sure what the details on that are, and it's an interesting idea to use that, but it lacks the specificity that would make it really more useful evidence. The question about borrowing for financial aid versus for universities versus trade schools, you had some information there. I didn't think it was as clear as it needed to be, and again, there wasn't a source on that. On the other hand, you had some good statistics talking about the growth in potential jobs, about what the numbers are for getting degrees, and then there's a bunch of stuff about student loans also. Again, a little thin on the citation. The Department of Labor statistic was pretty solid, though. You did cite that on the projected growth in these blue-collar jobs. I like the example that you have of the family relative who is at 42 still paying off student loans and has 2 full-time jobs. So that kind of illustrates that point. There's plenty of information about the burden of student loans that I think you could have cited that would make that point, follow up that point more effectively. You do a nice job speaking to the audience for the most part. I think you come across pretty naturally and enthusiastic about the subject that you're talking about. You want to lose the hat while you're giving the presentation too. That'll help your credibility a bit, although it will make your hair look funny.